Good morning, all my sweet friends, pals, and confidants. It's Tuesday. It's May 5th. Yesterday was May 4th. I hope the 4th was with you. I had planned on reading from Job today, but I'm not going to. Instead, I'm going to tell you about a man that was born on May 5th in 1929. So if he were alive today, he would be celebrating his 97th birthday. And that man was my daddy. My dad was, I think he was the firstborn boy out of many children. I have no idea how many children were on that side of the family. I know there were at least 3 girls and at least 5 boys, maybe 4. But those are just the ones that I knew of. We were not close to my dad's family. They all lived west. Many of them were in St. Louis or that area. Some were in California. My Aunt Patty and her family were in California. I met them when I was 5. I met my grandmother when I was 5, the only time I ever met her. I had an Uncle Bobby, and I'm Facebook friends with his 2 sons, Bobby and Jimmy. They are my cousins, and I have not seen them since I was really little. I was going to say 5, but I had to have been older than that because they are younger than I am. And they were, Jimmy might have been little, like 3. So I'm going to say I was probably 7-ish. I'm not really sure. I'll have to ask Jimmy how old he is. I know they don't remember me. They know they had an Uncle Lou and that my brother and I are his children and my sister. So they know about us and we're Facebook friends, but that's it. We really don't know each other. My cousin Bobby has a daughter who is a Kansas City Chiefs cheerleader. Yes, and she is drop dead gorgeous. She is so beautiful. I mean, I might be just being prejudiced, but I think she's the prettiest cheerleader on the squad. She really is a beauty. And from what I can tell from her mom and dad, she's beautiful inside too. And so that probably just shines to her outside. My cousin Jimmy is single and a little bit of a bad boy. Yes, you are, Jimmy. But then that's the way the Brookses were. My dad was the black sheep of the family. Moses, stop. He loves to eat paper. Oh, by the way, yes, I'm in a different room. I moved to the office. We'll see how this goes today. I usually like to sit in the dining room, at the dining room table, but I kind of want to make use of this office. Right now, it's kind of a work in progress. As you can see, the shelves right here have nothing on them. Those are my husband's shelves. Now my shelves, those are some of my shelves. Those are some of my shelves. I have quite a bit more on mine, and I have more books that I had totally forgotten until this weekend because I remembered, my Jonathan Cahn books got ruined because a whole box of books got ruined when I moved, and the movers left the box on the porch, and we had a monsoon that weekend. And I didn't realize that my box of books was on the porch until a week later when I'm in the process of unpacking. I was unpacking every day, obviously, but I got onto the porch a week later and found a box of soaked books. And in there was all of my Jonathan Cahn books. And I remembered that because I was at a revival meeting Sunday evening, and Jonathan Kahn was the main speaker. He was awesome, by the way. He had a drop mic moment when he finished what he was saying, and everybody just started cheering, and he just walked off the stage. And he was even finished like 3 minutes early. Because I could see the, I'm techie. So I looked for those things, and he still had 3 minutes to talk. Everybody else went over in their time. I mean, everyone. It was 9 o'clock, I think, before we got out of there. We should have been out at 8. So, yeah, it was a long night. Anyways, that being said, that was an awesome experience. It wasn't the mountaintop experience I was hoping for. God did not have that in his plans for me this weekend. I'm still hoping for it. It's like a high. If you've ever experienced it, I'm sure you have, like when you got saved, you might have experienced it. It's just an amazing feeling. Anyways, that's what I was hoping for this weekend, and I didn't get it, but I just found a coaster that I bought for my grandson, my oldest grandson. It says, "You are my sunshine." I buy things, and then I leave them places and forget to give them to people. So I need to have one place. I used to have, in my old apartment, I had a back closet, and I had a shelf, and that's where I kept gifts that I bought early. So I would always know that's where they were. So these kinds of things I forget, because I don't have that place here, but I kind of sort of do, because I have a place where I put my gifts for CO, which reminds me, his anniversary gift is still in my bedroom. I need to put it out there. But anyways, back to my daddy. My daddy was born on May 5th, Cinco de Mayo. That's why I'm wearing my Mexican outfit. Today is Cinco de Mayo. Happy Cinco de Mayo. Anyway, he died. He was born. Then he died in 1998 at the age of 69 from lung cancer. He was a constant smoker, and he smoked Pall Mall, the ones with no filter. So he was constantly picking tobacco off his lips and off his tongue. So this is my memory of my dad. A beer in his hand, a cigarette here. That's my memory of my dad. His favorite thing to eat was anything Mexican. He loved enchiladas. He loved, and he got me to love, warm cornbread with buttermilk. My comfort food. Whenever I am really, really sad and unhappy about something, I want cornbread and buttermilk. Now, I can't eat much of it anymore because my stomach is so little. And if I eat too much, I get sick. So a lot of it goes to waste by the time it goes bad because I just can't eat that much. I want to. I fix myself a big glass and eat about half of it. So Daddy died on November 25th, 1998, my oldest son's birthday. And it was Thanksgiving time. And I got the call from the VA that Dad was not going to make it through the night. And so let me tell you a little bit about my dad. My dad was in the Army. He was very proud of his Army service. I was proud of his Army service. He was a medic in Korea. He also served in Hawaii, and he has a very funny, if not immoral, story about his time in Hawaii. And I'm not going to tell you the story. It's about him and a married woman. My dad was extremely good looking. My brother got that from my dad. My brother is very good looking. I always tell people, out of the three of us children, my baby sister is the smart one, I'm the nice one, and my brother is the pretty one. And I stick to that. Now, I'm not saying my sister isn't pretty or nice. She's just not as pretty as my brother or as nice as me. My brother isn't as smart as my sister or as nice as me, and I'm not as smart as my sister or as pretty as my brother. Although, I am smart. I'm really smart. So, if you know me at all, then you can only imagine how smart my sister is, because she's brilliant. She really is. She is one smart chickadee. And my brother is too. My brother owns his own businesses that he started up on his own. He started out as an actor in California. And, obviously, unless you get a really good break, it doesn't pay the bills. I think there's one, I think it's Doogie Howser. He was on one episode of Doogie Howser. And he gets like a check every now and then for 2 cents. The check is worth more than the, I'm Lee, if I'm lying, please just forgive me. But I remember it was a very, very small amount that you got for that. He has things that run every now and then. I haven't seen his Star Trek episode in a long, long time. He was on Wings, the soap opera Santa Barbara, the movie Sideways, the movie Moscow on the Hudson. Lots of different things my brother did. Anyway, this is not about my brother. This is about my daddy. My dad was an alcoholic. And most of the time he was not a functioning alcoholic. A lot of alcoholics can hold down a job and have a family and do all the things. My dad could not. My parents divorced when I was young, and my mother remarried to not a good man. My mother had issues of her own, so she made very poor choices in her life. But Daddy was a good man, he was very funny, very good looking. I loved my dad dearly, but my dad loved beer more than he loved anyone or anything. Beer was the love of his life. We never got to have the conversation because he drank up until he died, so I don't know what the hold was, whether it was the feeling, the taste. It couldn't have been the taste. I think it tastes nasty. If you put all the beer I have ever drank in a glass, it wouldn't reach that much. I just can't even stand the taste of it, and I'm sure a lot of it has to do with him. And because of his drinking, I do have PTSD. I just realized it a few years ago. That I have PTSD when I'm around people who drink. If I go to like a work party and they start drinking, I'm okay in the beginning, but as soon as someone acts the least bit loopy, I'm out of there. Boop. Yep. I can't deal. And that's a flaw in me. I'm sorry. That's part of my PTSD, because my dad would, as sweet and funny and wonderful as he was, and as much as he loved his little girl, he could be very mean when he drank. He was never mean to me. He never, in my entire life, I don't ever remember him laying a hand on me, ever. But him and my mom would get into fisticuffs, and she would always report it as domestic violence, but what I remember was she started it every time. Every time she started it. Most of the time he was just defending himself, because she was a wildcat. She, when she was young, she was a little teeny tiny wildcat. So most of my memories of my dad after that are just visitation, which he didn't have a lot because he wasn't consistent with child support. So my mom wouldn't let us see him, which punished us. It punished my brother and I more than it punished my dad. And my sister was really little, so she really doesn't remember it. And Mom wouldn't let Kelly go with us when we would go visit Dad. And I really only remember visiting him a couple times. We moved to Florida when I was in junior high, and so Dad moved to outside of Atlanta, Georgia, and he would come down and visit us a couple times a year. And I have good, wonderful memories of that. Dad never went to a church. He told me that he had never stepped foot inside the church. So when I got married and I invited him to my wedding back in 1974, he declined, saying the walls would fall down if he walked into a church. And I said, Dad, I think God is bigger than that. But anyways, he didn't come, and it probably was for the best, because my mother would have been very horrible and antagonistic and mean and nasty to him, which would have ruined my wedding day. It wasn't that great of a day anyway. You know, I wore a pink dress that she had somebody make that I didn't even like, I didn't want. I just wanted to go in the pastor's office and get married. She made me have a wedding. It wasn't really a wedding. My best friend Debbie was my bridesmaid, and my friend Mike Brumfield was our best man. Debbie has since passed away, and Mike still lives in Ormond. I love him dearly. He's disabled and walks with a walker, and his body has not done him well over the years. Gotta have my coffee. And nurses call the shots. Anyways, Daddy had us in early November or late October of '98. I got a call from the VA saying that my dad had had a stroke. So we made arrangements, and I flew out to Arizona. He lived in Scottsdale, so he was in the VA clinic and VA hospital in Phoenix, and I have to say, they were wonderful. We had been there a day or so, and they did a CT scan of his chest, and the doctor came out, and my brother and I were standing there, and she said he had CA with Mets, and I just kind of melted down the wall. My brother didn't know what that meant, so I said, he's got cancer and it has spread. So it started out lung cancer, and why they thought he had a stroke, because the cancer had gone to his brain. So at that time, they told us he had 6 months to a year, and he lasted about 6 weeks. After we left, you know, we had talked to some of his friends. They were going to look out for him. He had some very good friends, very good people, all bar people, but they loved my dad. And so they were all going to take care of him. And I had pretty much convinced him that for his 70th birthday, I wanted him to come to Florida and live with me. They said he had 6 months to a year, and I wanted what little time I could with my dad. He didn't make it to his 70th birthday. Within 6 weeks, I got a call that he was not going to make it through. He was back in the VA, and that he was not going to make it through the night. So the doctors that I worked with, I was working in the OR at the time, the anesthesiologists all pitched in. They paid for my hotel, they paid for my rental car, they paid for my airline, because I had just gone out there, you know, the month before, and so we couldn't afford it. My husband was a pastor and I was a nurse, and we had no, my daughter was married by then. So we had 2 teenage boys living at home. And so they paid for everything. And I flew out there, and before I left, I called a pastor that I knew in Scottsdale, and I said, it's now or never. It's now or never. They're saying he's not going to make it through the night. This was like early afternoon. I didn't get there till like almost midnight. When I got there, there was a note from that pastor, that Scottsdale pastor, saying that he had been there. Dad was awake and talking. He wasn't by the time I got there. And Dad had, with the pastor's help, asked Jesus to come into his heart. My dad died the next evening. He lasted, we took care of my brother, and I stayed there. And, well, I went back to the hotel, and I think my brother went back to my dad's apartment. And then we came back early the next morning. We stayed all day, and it looked like he was going to last. And so I had gone to get some big chairs for my brother and I to relax in and maybe spend the night there. And my brother, as the nurse was pushing one and I was pushing one, my brother came running out into the hall and said, he's awake. He hadn't been awake at all the whole time I had been there. And it was like I'd been there almost 24 hours by this time, and I had been wiping his, oh, I have to tell you about his hair. Funny, a story about his hair. But I had been combing his hair and rubbing his head and telling him I love him. And so I left the chair and I ran into the room, and I was on my dad's right, my brother was on the left, and I said, and he was looking straight forward, his eyes were wide open, and I said, Daddy, and he turned and he looked at me. I said, I love you. And my brother said, Dad, and Dad turned and looked at him, and he said, I love you, Dad. And my dad then turned, he looked straight ahead, and he went, and he was gone. And he was with Jesus. Because the Bible doesn't say we have to be baptized to make it into the heaven. The thief at Jesus' side was not baptized. He hadn't been to church. He was a bad guy. And Jesus said, today you will be with me in paradise. So that day, November 25th, 1998, my dad went to be with Jesus in paradise. So, if Daddy had not gotten cancer, if he had lived somehow by some miracle, he would have been 98 years old today. He was, 28 when I was born. He wasn't a young man. He had already served in Korea and Hawaii. Stop! In the Army, and was in the National Guard when he met my mom, stationed at Great Lakes. So, yeah, he wasn't young when they had me. I thought he was. For some reason, I thought he was. Even though I knew all this. I knew that he had been in the Army. And, you know, I'm new to my desk. I haven't been in here in ages. I'm finding all kinds of things. So hopefully I will do we'll see. We'll see how this goes. Moses is at my feet. So I don't have I'm not going to read from the Bible this morning because I've already gone 24 minutes just telling you my dad's story. So all that to say, Dad couldn't hold a job, was homeless for many years. I didn't hear from him, and then one day he just called me up out of the blue. And when my husband was in seminary and I was already on day shift. I was working at Huntington Center in Huntington, Indiana. My husband was going to school at Huntington College, Huntington University now. But Dad called in the middle of the night, like he always did, calling drunk. And at the time, I was working in alcohol and substance abuse. So I was learning so much more that I never knew about alcoholics and adult children of alcoholics. All these things were starting to make sense to me. I did end up getting my certification in alcohol and drug counseling. I never used it, but I did get my certification in the state of Indiana. I don't think I would want to do that anymore. I like what I'm doing, working with women, helping them keep their babies or put their babies up for adoption, giving them options, giving them choices other than unaliving their babies. So I really like what I'm doing. I have a lot to do today. Oh, the weather report for St. Augustine today. It's beautiful. I need to open that shade more so that I can see the sky. Right now, all I can see is a brick wall. I'll show you my view. It's a brick wall, and underneath that shade, you can see over it. I think it's about 6 foot tall brick wall, because the houses here are fairly close together. So we all have these, not brick, but concrete walls between each house. So we never hear any of our neighbors, even as close as they are. I'm sure they don't hear my dog bark. He has a very quiet bark anyways. Y'all have never heard him bark because he's just not a barker. So, yeah, it's beautiful. 66 the low today, 78 the high. It was 73 when I took Moses for his walk this morning. So proud of him. He did number 1 and number 2. Good boy. Good boy. We've been having issues with the number 2. Number 1, he's faithful. Every time I take him out, he'll go potty. Number 2 has been hit or miss. And I've tried all the things, but I just can't keep him tethered to me. I have things to do. I have a house to clean, you know, places to go, things to do, all that good stuff. So, yeah, that's my story of my daddy. I'm sticking to it. Happy Cinco de Mayo. I love y'all. Bye.